History is full of endings. Empires usually fall loudly. Cities burn, armies march, kings die in public. But this one did not. No final battle. No last emperor dragged through the streets. No conqueror carving his name into stone. 1 year it existed. The next it was gone. Not weakened. Not fading slowly. Not collapsing over centuries. It vanished. Its cities abandoned. Its roads empty. Its administration erased. Its name barely whispered in the records of its neighbors. And the strangest part, this empire was powerful, wealthy, organized, advanced. It controlled trade routes, governed millions, built infrastructure that should have lasted centuries. Yet within less than a generation, it disappeared so completely that historians still argue whether it truly fell at all. Tonight, we are exploring one of history's deepest mysteries, an empire that vanished almost overnight. And why, even now, no one can agree on what destroyed it. To understand the disappearance, we first need to understand the scale. This was not a forgotten tribe or minor kingdom. This was a structured state with bureaucracy, taxation, military organization, and international trade. At its height, the empire controlled vast territory, linking cities through roads, ports, and river systems. Its merchants traded luxury goods across continents. Its elites lived in stone-built urban centers. Its rulers issued laws, collected revenue, and maintained order. Archaeology tells us this was a society that planned for the future. Granaries stocked years ahead. Public works maintained regularly. Military garrisons positioned strategically, not desperately. Contemporary records from neighboring civilizations speak of this empire with respect, sometimes fear, often envy. It was not seen as fragile. And yet, something went catastrophically wrong. The most unsettling detail is how ordinary the final years appear. Excavations show markets operating normally, homes repaired, coins minted, taxes collected. There is no archaeological sign of panic. No rushed fortifications, no emergency mass graves, no scorched earth. Inscriptions end calmly. Administrative records simply stop. Imagine modern historians uncovering New York, London, or Beijing and finding that everyday life continued normally until 1 year. And then nothing. That is what makes this disappearance so disturbing. Empires collapse slowly. This one stopped. One leading theory begins, not with armies or assassins, but with the sky. Climate data taken from ice cores, lake sediments, and tree rings suggests a sudden environmental shift during the empire's final decades. Rainfall patterns changed, rivers altered course, growing seasons shortened. For an empire dependent on predictable agriculture, even a few bad years could destabilize food supplies. But here is the problem. Other civilizations in the region survived the same climate event. They struggled, they adapted, they endured. Only this empire vanished completely. Climate stress alone does not explain total disappearance, unless something else was already wrong beneath the surface. Another theory points inward. Not rebellion, not revolution, but quiet administrative collapse. Some historians believe the empire's centralized bureaucracy became too rigid. Local governors lost autonomy. Decisions slowed. Corruption spread silently. Taxes increased while public services declined. Trust eroded, not through violence, but through apathy. When systems stop functioning, people do not always riot. Sometimes, they leave. Archaeology shows signs of gradual abandonment rather than destruction. Houses left intact. Tools left behind. Personal belongings untouched. It looks less like flight from an enemy and more like people walking away from a system that no longer worked. An empire does not always fall. Sometimes it is simply deserted. One of the strangest discoveries comes from burial sites. Elite graves stop appearing, not replaced by poorer graves, not destroyed. They just end. This suggests something happened specifically to the ruling class. Possibilities include a plague that affected urban elites more than rural populations, a targeted political purge, internal exile, or migration, a religious or ideological shift that rejected traditional burial practices, but there is no clear evidence of mass death. No pandemic graves, no medical texts describing catastrophe. If the elite vanished, they did so quietly, and without explanation. Some scholars propose an invasion so subtle that it left almost no trace, not a burning conquest, a takeover by absorption. Nomadic groups or neighboring states may have moved into imperial territory gradually, adopting local culture while dismantling central authority. The empire may not have been conquered. It may have been dissolved, its identity erased as new rulers chose not to preserve its name, laws, or memory. This happened before in history, but usually, we find layers of transition. Here we find almost nothing. Perhaps the greatest mystery is the silence itself. Other civilizations should have noticed. Trade partners, rivals, enemies, yet references to this empire suddenly vanish from foreign texts as well. It is as if everyone agreed to stop talking about it. Some historians suspect deliberate erasure, a successor state rewriting history, a political taboo, a collapse so embarrassing that memory itself was abandoned. History is written by survivors. If no one wanted to claim inheritance, no one recorded the fall. If no one wanted to claim inheritance, no one recorded the fall. The disappearance did not happen overnight in a single day, but it did happen within a single generation. Children born under the empire grew old, in a world where it no longer existed. No replacement empire rose immediately. Power fragmented. Cities shrank. Trade routes rerouted. The region entered a historical dark age, not because people vanished, but because organization did. This mystery unsettles historians for a reason. It challenges how we think civilizations end. Not every collapse is dramatic. Not every fall is violent. Not every ending leaves ruins. Some systems fail quietly. They lose legitimacy. They lose purpose. They lose participation. And then one day, they are simply no longer there. We want endings, battles, dates, villains, but history does not always offer closure. This empire did not fall. It slipped out of existence. Its people moved on. Its cities emptied. Its name faded. And the world barely noticed. Perhaps that is the most unsettling lesson of all.